So, welcome back, everyone, to ABSA on Air. I am today's host, Alicia Robbins, and we are going to be diving into a special episode titled Global Animal Biology. If you have ever wondered what it's like to study animal biology abroad, today is your time to learn. And so, we are joined by both Arden and Audrey today, who have both spent time overseas in the Netherlands and Germany. They'll share what it's like living, studying, and exploring as an animal biology student across the world. So we will start off with a fun little icebreaker. So here on campus at Guelph, I would say that our most common animal is the squirrels and that they are very friendly here. So you guys each tell me what animal you saw most commonly in your respective countries.
I went to the Netherlands, and the most common animal I saw was probably geese, not Canadian geese, but they would always try and attack me when I was on my bike, so that was really fun.
How lovely.
Not necessarily on campus, but in a lot of the big cities have rivers in Germany, and the swans are like really aggressive. So yes, they will chase you as well.
Interesting. Watch out. So now we are going to jump into our interview portion. So we'll start off with how you guys got started into each of your programs. So I'll ask Audrey first. Can you introduce yourself and tell us where you went on exchange?
Yes, so I'm Audrey. I'm now in my fourth year of animal bio. I went on exchange the summer after second year, before third year, and I went to Germany, the south of Germany, in a city called Stuttgart, and lived on campus and did a research project down there.
Awesome. And what inspired you to go abroad in the first place?
It wasn't anything specific. My best friend and I actually went together, and he was like, I want to go abroad. So I was like, okay, I'll go abroad.
Just go together.
Exactly. And then I'm German, and so I have a lot of family in Germany, and it worked out that there was an agriculture university in the same city that my family over there lives in. And so we just went to go have our Euro summer abroad.
As you should. I love that so much. So I'll ask you a few questions about the exchange process itself. So how did you first learn about the exchange opportunity?
The cannon was painted.
Nice.
It's called the CIP, the Center for International Programs, had done like a paint the cannon thing. And so I was like, oh my god, I want to go to abroad. This is where my best friend was like, we need to go abroad. I was like, okay. And I did some research, and I was like, you know what? I'm far enough along in the program, and I've been taking my electives, so it doesn't really work for what I want to do to go abroad during the year. So they have lots of research opportunities, and just like picked one and followed it through.
And picked one and called it a day. Awesome. So what was a bit of the application process like? How did you decide choosing your country, paperwork, deadlines? How'd you keep all that straight?
So the program that I went abroad through is called OBW, and it stands for Ontario of Baden-Württemberg, which is a province here, Ontario, and then a province in Germany. And so they actually send German students here, and they send Canadian students to Germany to do research across disciplines. And it was started at York University, but it's become quite popular here because of all the agriculture students. And so we started that, found that program. I picked that program because the stipend was like $3,500, and then the OAC actually matched that. So my trip was fully paid for, which was sweet.
Epic.
And then it's a pretty intensive process. So you have to find a professor in Ontario. So for me, it was a prof that I had worked for previously that's going to nominate you from your department and say, hey, this is an animal bio student. They want to go abroad and do some research. They're going to do a good job. And then you have to go online and find a professor at one of the partner universities who will take you on for the summer. So the profs are pretty open to it because they don't have to pay you. And I find that profs, especially in Germany, are very open to international students
Cool.
because there's not very many animal science students over there that want to get involved in research. It's a very hard time with all the like animal welfare regulations are a lot stricter over there. So I started applying in the fall of second year. And it took basically up until February or March before we left to get that application done. And there's lots of steps on how to help you if you want to do that program. You go to like the study abroad meeting, and then they'll give you a little bit of information, and you apply. You don't only apply through Guelph, you apply through the OBW site. So it's two different applications you have to send in and then get approved for, like, multiple steps. You have to get approved for the program. You have to get your professors to get their letters approved from both sides, like host and acceptance profs. So
A number of documents that have to get organized.
You don't need a visa for Germany if you're going to be there less than 90 days. I was there for 92, and the border guard was like, "You do not have a visa." It's like, oh, no, I don't have a visa. He's like, "Why do you not have a visa? You have been here for 92 days." So it was fine, and I got let through. But the friend that I went with stayed in Finland with his family for an extra couple weeks. So it was very easy to get a visa. It's just all of these processes take a long time. Profs are very slow to answer emails.
Yes.
And the time difference makes it very hard to fill out the paperwork. So, yes.
Did you find like setting up any like meetings with professors to get like the paperwork signed help, or did you try to do that at all?
So yes, I did set up meetings. I was lucky because my host professor was Dr. Mike Steele, and so he actually knew a professor in Germany who looked at cattle welfare, so like dairy calf nutrition, and said, "Hey, you should contact this prof." So I sent her an email and was like, "Hey, I'm a University of Guelph student. I want to do this program. Can you take me?" And she actually was very quick to respond. I know my friend who did the same program, his professor was very, very slow. So just kind of like I had to send a bunch of emails out to profs, and then the prof that I wanted to go to was the one who responded first. And like Zoom meetings are hard because of the time change. So
Fair.
there's a very small slot in which you can have a meeting with someone in Germany. But I find that everyone involved in the program was very helpful. Like if I had any questions, they were very much like, "This is exactly what you need to do." The only hard thing is it is very self-led. Like nobody's gonna hold your hand. If you don't find a prof to nominate you, you're
Not going. Yeah.
Exactly. The nice thing is though, is if you find a prof to nominate you and a prof to accept you, they're not gonna deny you from going. If that makes sense. So it's not like if I get accepted into the program, it's more like if you organize yourself and organize your summer, you can go.
Nice. Cool. Another question that we have for you is, did you receive any support from advisors or past students who had gone abroad that like may have helped you mentor through it, or did you kind of trek on your own?
So I was actually the first animal bio student to go abroad in this program, like the OBW program.
Look at you go.
So it was a lot of like trial and error. I did kind of drag my friend through the process with me. He was not very on it, so I did kind of do it for both of us. So it was like, if I came across a roadblock in the process, like one of the documents I needed only existed in German, and the lady I was emailing to get it converted to English so that I could fill it out didn't speak English. So
Helpful.
there wasn't really anyone who knew how to help me through it, but there was in that case, I like found a translator at the university I was going to, which is the University of Hohenheim.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, yes, there's lots of people to help you, but there wasn't someone who was going to hold my hand through it. I am now an ambassador for study abroad, so like I will be happy to help people who go through the process. But it was a long road.
Yeah, For sure. So that was a nice little like overview of kind of like how you got into the program and stuff, and like the educational side of it. How did you prepare more logistically for going abroad? So that like would include your housings. You already talked on visas a little bit, but like budgeting for it, etc.
Yeah, so because I was going with a friend, we knew we wanted to live together, and so thankfully the university had a international research housing. So we sent a little email and we're like, hey, we're coming for 3 months, like we need somewhere to live. And so we lived in a little 2-bedroom apartment on campus with like a little kitchenette. I found the university I was going to very helpful. Like there's 2 other Gulf students who went with us that summer, and they both lived in residence, and it was very easy. In Germany, you need to register as somebody living in that city. So the paperwork takes a while. So I think I didn't get like my health insurance and stuff in Germany set until maybe 2 weeks after I got there.
Okay.
So the university does give you like a checklist of things to do when you arrive, which is really helpful.
Nice.
So I found the housing very easy, which was nice. And then budgeting was also very nice because I got $7,000 in stipend to like be my like pay for doing the research. So that covered flights, food, housing, and then I think I spent about $1,500 of my own money, like going abroad on the weekend and stuff.
Doing some little adventures.
So I didn't find the budgeting to be too difficult. The like dining hall on campus only ran for lunchtime, so we did have to make sure that we had breakfast and dinner and food for Sunday because everything closes on Sunday in Germany.
Yes.
Everything closes on all the major holidays, so it takes some planning like that way. But I found life to be actually like comparably price-wise to Guelph. Like the groceries were not much more expensive, which was what I was kind of worried about. And public transport was very cheap. There's something called the Deutschbahn, which is like a public transit system that is like from buses to inter-province trains.
Cool.
And so if you pay a set amount of euros a month, you get access to pretty much all of that stuff. So it's like super affordable, very easy to get into the city. So the logistics I found were a lot easier once you get through like the heavy paperwork side in the like fall, early winter. The only other logistically hard thing was you do have to be there for May 1st. So it is a pretty tight turnaround. I think I had 4 days to move out of Guelph and fly to Germany. So
that's pretty quick.
Exams. But yeah, no, everyone is very helpful is kind of what I found.
Epic. And final question for you before I move on to Arden. Looking back, is there anything you had wished that you knew earlier about the process? Maybe a little note for our future people applying.
There's nothing that maybe I wish I knew, like, at the beginning of it. Oh, actually, I lied. You do have to apply for the OAC funding. So there's a completely separate, so the money you get from doing the program is one thing that you get when you get signed on. And then if you want a scholarship to travel from the OAC, you need to send in a separate form. And it basically just like you select which scholarships you want to apply to, and they allocate the funding out to everyone traveling under the Ag College that summer.
Cool.
I don't, off the top of my head, know what day that's due, but it is due, I think, early winter. So definitely, like when you start applying, start looking at that kind of right away. Which I'm glad I did because it was definitely
helpful.
Really nice. Yeah. Made up for not being able to work that summer.
Fair.
And then maybe if I was going to change something going back, I loved that my friend and I lived in our own little house, but it was a little bit isolating, I think, especially like trying to make friends when we got there because our summer semester falls a little bit outside of the typical German school semester. So when you get there, school's already started, and then people start exams like halfway through the summer, and the German exams are a little bit different. So it's like you go to class for a couple weeks, and then you study for like a month and a half, and then you write exams.
Interesting.
which is interesting. So I think maybe I would have lived like in more typical residence with a bigger kitchen and more people, and would have maybe like met more friends. But
Yeah, kind of more forced integration.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know.
Fair. Very nice. Well, thank you. That's a lot of helpful information. And so, continuing with our interviews, we're now going to jump into Arden's. So, can you introduce yourself and tell us where you went on exchange?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Arden. I'm in my 4th year of animal biology, and I went on my exchange in the Netherlands. I went to the University of Wageningen, which is in the east.
Say that again.
Wageningen. It's
Damn.
a mouthful.
Okay.
And I went last winter. So, well, I guess winter 2025. The winter semester of my 3rd year.
Correct. Yes. Love it. And what inspired you to go abroad?
My best friend went abroad. She's 2 years older than me, and she went to McGill, and she went to Vienna in Austria.
Cool.
She went for, I think, 8 months, and she said that I need to go. So I sort of looked into it in my 3rd year, and yeah, that's how I
Jumped on the train.
Exactly.
Heck yeah. So we'll jump into a bit more of the exchange process itself. So, how did you learn about the exchange opportunity?
I kind of did my own research, honestly. I think I had a meeting with like my course advisor, whoever helps you choose your courses.
Oh, your academic counselor?
Academic counselor, yes.
Heck yes.
And I asked about study abroad and like how I could do that, and she gave me like a little pamphlet, and I read through it, and it was CIP. And then I found out that they're having a bunch of those introductory meetings that you mentioned, Audrey, and I went to one of them. And I honestly didn't know where I wanted to go, but I sort of knew that the Netherlands was going to be on my list because my whole my dad's side of the family lives in the Netherlands, so I knew I wanted to be close to that area at least. And then it turns out that the school that I ended up going to is actually specialized in like life sciences. So
Awesome.
yeah,
You both kind of followed your little families, your roots.
Similar to Audrey's story.
Cute. I love it. So, how did you find the application process? So, choosing your country, you already talked about some of the paperwork and deadlines. How did you find all of that?
I would say it's like Audrey said, it's very, very self-led. Like it is, you really have to take the initiative if you really want to go on exchange. Since the processes are different, like by school, no one really knows how it works. I asked like everyone who worked at CIP, and they were like, "Well, just contact the people at the school, and they'll tell you how it works." They honestly have no clue how each process is in depth. So it's a lot of your own initiative. The beginnings of it, actually getting accepted into the exchange program, was through the University of Guelph. So you have to fill out an application, and then you wait to hear back, and you have to rank, I think, your top 5 schools, and then they'll most likely give you your first or second choice. And then I believe you do have to have a certain average, or like maybe over 70 or something like that. But I think I applied in November. No. I applied in March of 2024.
Yeah.
No, I applied in March of 2024, and I found out in like September of 2024 where I was going. So it took quite a while, and once you find out where you're going, they sort of explain what you have to do. I was in contact with a couple of the international advisors at the university, and they were very nice, very helpful, but it was not very clear, to be honest.
Yeah, a bit of a pave your own path kind of situation.
Yes. It was a lot of like emailing back and forth and sort of getting clarity, and honestly, the course selection part was the most confusing part because everything is different, and you sort of just have to figure it out on your own. There was a lot of like courses that I wanted to sign up for that were like actually graduate program courses.
Oh no!
I had no clue until I signed up for those. And the credit system is different too, so that was kind of confusing. But they're all super nice, and they would respond pretty fast considering the time difference, so I was happy with that. In terms of like visa, I didn't actually have to get one because I have a Dutch passport, so I have like my citizenship.
She bougie.
Yeah, so everyone
Made it nice and easy.
Yeah, everyone who was going asked me like, "Oh, when did you get your visa?" And I don't really know much about that process, but I've heard it's not too difficult. So most of the stuff I think I had to do by like November, the latest, and I went in the end of December. So some of the stuff was difficult, but it was definitely doable as long as you have the drive to reach out and answer any questions. And CIP does provide you with like a checklist of everything you need to do before you go abroad, and they have a whole like SharePoint website,
Nice.
which was actually really helpful. And if you ever email them with confusion, they can always help answer your questions to the best of their ability.
Or hopefully guide you to someone who can. Yeah.
Exactly.
Nice. Did you receive any support from advisors or like past students, like via mentorship kind of things? Or still just kind of on your own road?
Yeah, I actually emailed. Who did I email? They sent out a list of last year's study abroad students who went to the same university. So CIP did that. So I actually reached out to like each one, and I just like sent them a whole email, and a bunch of them responded.
Nice.
And they just gave me a bunch of advice about like housing, because honestly, the housing was really confusing for my study abroad. It was not clear, so that definitely helped. And I was emailing back and forth and just asking about like, oh, like what did you do for this application, or who did you contact for this or that, and they were really nice. So I definitely say the students had more knowledge for sure.
Nice. That's helpful. And so how did you go about preparing logistically for your travels? So your housing, your budgeting, etc.
Yeah, so in terms of the tuition, for my program at least, it was the same amount you pay for like one full-time semester at Guelph. So that was reasonable, or what I normally pay for a full-time tuition, so that wasn't too bad. In terms of housing, it was confusing. I was actually automatically granted housing, but I had no idea until
Just weren't informed.
yeah, I had no idea until I think mid-December, and I was flying to Amsterdam. I was staying with my grandmother for the first 2 weeks before I moved in. I found out like the second or third week of December where I was living.
Stressful.
So it was definitely stressful, and I was looking on this like sort of like equivalent of the Canon. It's like sort of an independent website off of the university, but it was just like student housing, and you have to bid on houses, and it was like I was stressed out about that, but then I ended up
bidding. Damn.
my own assigned housing, which was I shouldn't have stressed out, but I would definitely recommend that people figure that out and like ask if you are guaranteed housing or not as an international student. And I lived on the edge of the town. I didn't live on campus, but it was still like a campus residence.
Yeah.
And it was like a 15-minute bike ride from the university, so that wasn't too bad. And I lived with, actually, there was all the other Guelph students who went there. They were all there as well, and a bunch of other international students. Mostly international students stayed in that residence, so that was nice to meet people. And yeah, I think I spent a lot of money on my exchange, to be honest. But it was definitely worth it. Like, if you have the opportunity to go, and make sure you budget, sort of allocate where you're going to spend on travel and fun and stuff. But going within Europe, it's pretty cheap to travel. Like, I think I got a plane ticket to Prague for like €90. So
Wow.
yeah, so I
Nice.
Yeah, once you're there, the traveling is cheap, and I also did not find that the groceries were expensive as well. As like Audrey said, I got a bike rented, like a used bike for like €20 or something. So you can really, if you like work to find the cheap options, you definitely can. But it is sort of expected that you will spend some
More than you would
more
spend
than
in
you
a
would
normal
spend,
semester
for
here.
sure, because
Yeah.
you still do have to pay for housing. But yeah.
Nice. Awesome. And so, final question. Looking back, is there anything that you wish you knew earlier about the process or like a word of wisdom for people that might want to go?
Um, I think joining in as much of for my school at least, we had an international students club, and I went to one of the events in early January, and I actually met so many of my friends in that meeting. So I would definitely recommend like doing everything you can to meet new people, because I think for the first like 2 months of my exchange, it was really lonely to like begin meeting people and to build those relationships before you can actually like begin to have fun with your friends. It's sort of like you just have acquaintances at first. So,
Yeah.
and definitely being away from like everyone that you know and all your loved ones from Canada. It's definitely difficult at first, but putting yourself out there is worth it. And looking back, I would definitely do more of those events to open myself up to other people.
Awesome. Love it. So this next little bit is going to be on academic experience abroad. So we'll start with Arden this time. How did classes in the Netherlands compare to your courses here at Guelph?
Um, Quite different. So at the University of Guelph, it's structured into the semester system. So you take like 4 or 5, 6-ish courses over the course of 3 months. And at the university I was at, it was structured into, I believe, 8 periods that run through the entire year. So the time I arrived at period, I believe, 4, and that was about a month and a half, and then period 5 was another month and a half, and then I think it was period 6/7. It's sort of combined, and it was longer, and it was about like almost 2 months, not quite. So it was quite different, and in those periods, I took 1 to 2 classes at a time.
Okay.
So it's much more focused on the individual class, and you spend a lot more time doing one course at a time, but a lot faster pace. And that was definitely something to get used to. In the first period, I was like definitely not doing the amount of studying I should have been, and it sort of was really fast paced, and I wasn't used to it. But I got the hang of it by the end. But the classes are much more hands on. I found we had a lot more activities, and I know in the first class I did, it was a general animal agriculture class, and each lab we actually went. So like we did a dairy one where we emptied fistulated cow and measured the rumen contents, and then we did another where we had to watch a boar sort of being ejaculated.
Yeah. I knew that's where that was going. I was like, is she going to say it?
Yeah, so we did watch a farmer actually do that, and they did make us like hold it, and it was really interesting. And then
Well, I mean, in our animal physiology class, we were taught the whole like hand glove technique, which is like interesting that you got to see it in person.
yeah, it was really surreal, honestly. But it was definitely interesting, and it allowed me to sort of learn in a different way. And I also did an insect class, which was really out of my comfort zone.
A little different.
Yeah, I did it with one of my best friends from my exchange now, and we were in a lab together, and we did 3 different experiments. One was like we had to parasitize caterpillars, like with parasitic wasps.
Oh.
And we actually did a whole report on like if the parasites developed in the caterpillars, and we dissected them under a microscope. And then we also were growing fruit flies, and we had to transfer them and stuff like that and measure sort of their like physical characteristics. So that was really cool, and definitely not something you can do at the University of Guelph. I don't think they have an intense insect ecology.
A little bit. I don't know much about it because it's under like the zoology program a lot more, but
yeah, definitely not something I've experienced here so far. So Yeah, that was really interesting. And then also I did a bunch of dissections of like catfish and tilapia and stuff like that in the lab.
Cool.
So
Epic. That sounds so fun. So you've touched on it a little bit, but like what were the courses like, and were they like related to animal biology, and what stood out about them?
I took one animal biology sort of course. It was a first year course. There was a lot of first years in that class. And then my second class was the insect one. And my third one was a fish aquaculture class. And the fourth one was a writing based class. So you wrote like a sort of like a review paper of your choice, and it was sort of guided by you, but it was an insect based class. You had to choose some sort of like insect, um, and I think that specifically what stood out about that class was it really helped me prepare for my research course I'm doing right now.
Nice.
Like how to write, sort of compile research papers and turn that into a big report. And I really liked in that specific course that it was, you had to actually meet once a week with someone, and it felt much more supportive than if I were to not have that. And a lot of the professors are really passionate about what they're teaching, which I think is similar to here. But it was just nice.
Dom with his fish courses.
Yes.
I was gonna say I know you've got a good background in
Yes.
fish, so I hope you did well in that fish course.
Yeah, it was definitely really, really cool to see the different areas that they focus on in the Netherlands. There's a lot of like shellfish and research in that area, so we actually like did a lot with shellfish in the lab as well.
Cool.
But yeah, I think it was definitely more hands-on, but all of my courses were animal related.
Nice. That's epic that you kind of got to continue like the animal biology, at least feeling and grow upon things that you've learned here. Was there anything that you found like more surprising about the academic culture? Like, was there a big difference in grading or prof-student relationships and like class style and how they were taught?
Yeah, sure. I think it was a lot different, but the grading was similar to Guelph in that you sort of have the exam at the end and you're graded on all the assignments. But the grading is like out of, I think, 10. So it's similar to percentage, but it was like you got like an 8 out of 10 in the class or something like that instead of like a physical percentage. And I think that the culture there in the Netherlands is it's a lot different. In Europe in general, people aren't as friendly initially. I think they're a lot more blunt and like if you smile at someone on the street, for example, I think that's really common in Canada here. They won't smile back. And it's not to be rude. I think that's just their culture, and it was definitely something I had to get used to. And I remember coming back to Canada and like not smiling at people because it was just what I got used to so much while I was there.
The Europeans rubbed off on you. Come on.
They did. And then at the beginning, I was in the Netherlands. I was like, oh, hi, and they were not
holding the door for people, saying thank you, and they're all just like,
yeah, it's definitely a little bit less like friendly to strangers. But once you get to know everyone else that I met, like the Dutch students and the professors, everyone was super nice and definitely outspoken. I remember in a lab, one of the other international students got like offended about something that one of the Dutch students said, and it wasn't really to offend her. I think it was just like in their culture that, you know, they're really blunt about what they say. But I think that the professors really care about the international students. I remember one time I actually was sick from food poisoning.
oh no.
And I had to do a lab, and I didn't feel well, and the professor drove me home.
Oh.
Like, yeah, I took my bike in her car and everything, and she drove me home, and they gave me like a free lunch there and everything. at the school. So that was super nice, and they're really caring when it comes down to it. And in terms of the relationships, I actually found I made a lot of friends with other international students, and I met so many people from the University of Guelph that I didn't know through my residence, because a lot of them lived in the same building I did. And I
What kind of like programs were the other international students coming from?
One of them, she came from, I don't know what it is. It's like the kinesiology program.
Okay, yeah.
Like
The human kinetics.
yes.
That's our Guelph version of kinesiology, yeah.
Yes, human kinetics. And then there was a couple of their actual animal biology students there as well.
Nice.
And a bunch of people from the U.S. They were from like environmental science. They're really strong in the life sciences, especially environmental science and agriculture at that university. So
Nice.
there was a lot of people in that. And then I met a lot of people in my classes, and they're all like animal science students, because that was the program I was under.
Okay.
So
Fair enough. And what were your class sizes like? Like, were the lecture halls like quite different or like similar vibes?
I think the for my first class, it was the lectures were like very far in between. There were not a lot of lectures. We had a lot of like online content. It was switched between
Okay.
like lectures in person and lectures online. But when I went to the lectures in person, it was like a pretty medium sized hall, I would say. I would say like Rosansky 103 type size.
Okay, yeah.
And then my other classes were, I'd say like the animal science building, like the animal science and nutrition building classes. I don't know how many people are in those classes.
I think that's one's just above 100.
I think
it's
maybe
not-
even less
Yeah.
in my classes, at least. Like maybe I'd say
Nice.
60 to 80 students.
So a lot closer to like high school than like,
Yes.
especially first year here.
For sure. I think that the bigger class sizes was for that first year course I was telling you about.
Yep.
But the other courses were like more upper year classes. They're definitely smaller. And then the labs I was in, I would say like maybe 15 to 20 students per lab.
Cool.
So
Okay.
It was very like hands-on. The professors,
Very like intimate.
yeah, the professors would always come around and like check in on what we were doing. And I found that that was a big difference between here and there, where the professors are in the labs with us. So sometimes I know professors don't show up in the 12 labs, and it's like TAs and stuff, but the professors were always there. So that was
Nice.
kind of nice. Like,
Helpful.
extra questions. Yeah, exactly.
Cool. And then I had another question for you. Oh, how did your like courses transfer over kind of thing, like into your animal biology degree to like support your graduation from this program?
It was mostly done by the academic advisor. Is that what it's called?
Counselor, yeah.
Sorry, I
Right
never
there.
remember that name. She actually took those classes and would see it. So the whole goal is to try and get the classes that you take to be transferable into like required credits. So she said if you want to take like maybe one genetics class, you could use that course and maybe apply it to be an equivalent to Andy's third year genetics class.
So it would count as one of your restricted
Yes.
courses. Okay.
So I actually found one that was a genetics, and she emailed Andy, and he said it was approved to be like the equivalent, but I didn't end up taking it.
But it is a possibility.
It is definitely a possibility. Like if you want to try and do as many credits as you can to get like your restricted or whatever your required classes done during your exchange, you definitely can. But most of them were actually restricted electives, I believe.
Okay.
So I would say if you want to do an exchange, definitely save up your electives, because that was really helpful that I had extra credits that I could put towards that during my exchange. But it's definitely possible to do the transfer goal over. But I think most of them have a course code in my course web advisor. It's like a 9 in front of it. So I think that means it's an exchange credit.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, most of them counted towards my restricted electives.
Nice. That's helpful.
Yeah.
I think that's all my questions for you. Do you have anything that like you want to add or can think of for like academic wise?
No, I don't think so.
No, that's okay. So now we're jumping into Audrey's interview about academic experience, but it's not really academics because you did a research project. So tell me a bit about what your research project in Germany was like.
Um, it was a lot of work, but super fun. So the lab that I worked in was my supervising professor was actually the dean of like the agricultural school at the university I was at.
Okay.
Awesome. And she was a practicing vet for 20 years before going into research.
Look at her go.
So learned a lot. The two other postdocs there were also vets, and then he came back to do research. So I think there was 12 or 11 or 12 of us in the lab, which was fun. It was very nice. Like in my office, there was two of us in the office, so I got to know the other researcher pretty well. So it was, I loved it.
And it was all on campus, right? Like you were working more with samples.
Yes. So the project I did was actually, I took fecal samples from a couple hundred calves and sorted them. That was the whole other thing. And then I analyzed the level of starch in the samples by putting them through a process to convert the starch to glucose to look at how it was multifactorial study. So it was like a 2x2. It was the dams variety. So if the calf's mom had had calves before or not, versus weaning age. So one group, so there's 4 groups. Like it was a heifer who had a calf who was weaned at 7 weeks, and then heifer calf at 17, and then older dam 7 weeks, 17 weeks for weaning age. So I was looking kind of to see what affected starch digestion in calves. So it was a lot to like get jumped right into that. I was lucky. The professor reached out to actually had the samples, and she was like, "I have a project for you."
It is right here.
So nice. It was pretty cool. So when I got to campus and I like went to the lab to meet, her name was Dr. Corinna Huber. So meet Dr. Huber. She showed me the freezer. So I spent the first week going through the samples and kind of taking inventory because it was from an older project they did, and some of my samples were not there, or mislabeled.
MIA.
And the spectrometer that I used, so like to measure the color of the liquid to determine the glucose percent, which I back calculated to the starch percent, was from like the 1960s. So I had to spend
Lord.
some time calibrating that machine and learning how to use it, which was a mission.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So the professor I worked for kind of had an idea of what she wanted me to do, but so we used a kit that normally tests plant material for glucose levels. And so we used that kit, and I took the kit and I basically rewrote a new set of experimental procedures to take the fecal samples and then be able to use them with the enzymes that they gave us in the kit. There was a lot of road bumps. I don't think I got good data for maybe the first month because it was like the experiment took about 5 hours. It was a lot of like boiling test tubes and like learning. There's a lot of control, so it was like the glucose control, the sample 1 control, the like water control, and like measuring like glucose should be here, water should be here. We want the samples to kind of be here, so measuring a lot of that. About 2 weeks in, I learned that my machine was calibrated wrong. It was amazing.
Helpful.
So I had to, for the rest of the summer, manually set it to 0 using water.
Oh, Lord.
My research was a lot of work, but it was very rewarding once I kind of got the whole thing working. I learned how to make my own acid and mix my own enzymes, and I learned how to store things in the fridge properly because I stored my enzymes wrong once, and then they died, and that kit is really expensive. So
Oh, no.
yeah, exactly. Or by fire.
Yes.
By fire.
Love it.
So that was pretty cool. But once I kind of got everything sorted and I got my procedures printed out, so it's interesting. So in Germany, it's a little bit different than working as like a research assistant in Guelph, where the rules here are a little more lax. In Germany, you have a lab book owned by the university. No, owned by the government, which the university is like holds onto. So I had my lab book and I printed out like a observation table that I would have made to record all my data and do the calculations in lab. And so I had to like glue it into my lab book at the end of every day before inputting the data into my spreadsheets, because the university and the government wanted like a copy of the data. The regulations around animal research in the EU is very, very, very strict, which is not a bad thing, but like it required a lot of extra hoops to jump through. So once I got everything kind of set, I actually taught one of the lab techs in the lab how to run all the machines and do the procedures. So then we could start amping up the number of samples we ran through the day.
Awesome.
Nice. And then the last like 3 weeks, I did a bunch of statistics, and what I found was not what I wanted to find. It was
Didn't meet your hypothesis.
so it wasn't like I didn't find out that like, okay, if you wean at 17 weeks, it has a direct correlation with the starch measures, because you don't want starch in the food. You want it to all be used by the animal.
Yes.
I found out that the variety of the dam affects the fermentation process. And so what I found was a big, huge gaping hole, and my professor was like, I'm going to run about 4 more projects to try and fill this hole that doesn't exist in the literature. And I was like, okay, amazing. So it was a really good learning experience about what research is like. I know that I will never do a PhD.
Too much work.
It's just not something that I like. I like the like knowing the answer and following the process, and it not being like I'm trying to learn something that doesn't exist. It's kind of a hard feeling to get over. Like I come back home at the end of the day at the lab and just be like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, like you're truly like trekking through cloudiness, hoping to find an answer, but
a lot of like feeling like imposter syndrome, because I'm like, okay, I worked as like a lab assistant in Guelph, but I fed calves. I was doing research. So it was a really sharp learning curve, like the lab skills, like knowing how to use a micropipette. Because when I pipetted wrong, my samples were bad. And like learning how to mix acid and autoclave water and all that sort of stuff. So it was a really special experience, but definitely wasn't like an easy path.
Fair. And so if you had to describe like what kind of a week of working looked like there, like in your research role, like how would you describe it to someone?
Yeah, so my experiment took about 5 hours to run. So I kind of knew that. So depending on like the grocery situation at home, I would like get up and go to the Mensa, like the dining hall for breakfast, and get my coffee, whatever, go to the lab, check in with my supervisor, go up to my computer, kind of decide what samples I was going to run that day. I normally ran it by animal. So each animal had 6 time periods. So I would try to run 1 animal a day. So I would do all 6 time periods that animal was sampled to run them. So I'd like go to the deep freeze, find all my samples, get everything set up, which took about an hour, and then I'd start my experiment, which was hard because to be in all the PPE, mask, glove, goggles, lab gown, lab coat, and I had like 4 or 5 hot plates with boiling water. So I felt like a little mad scientist running around with my test tubes and like moving them around. And the you know when you put it on the like thing and it like shakes and spins?
Yep.
I don't know what the English word for it is.
I don't know. I think it's like rumbler or something. I'm not a lab person.
Doing that. So a normal day was like I would eat a big breakfast and then like try and get through the experiment if I could. There was normally a 1 hour break where it had to sit in like a cooler water bath. So if I was really, really hungry, I would let it sit in the water bath and like rip my lab coat off and run to the dining hall to get a sandwich. Or I'd finish it, go get lunch. And lunch was normally pretty chill. I sometimes would get lunch with people from lab. The culture around drinking specifically in Germany is very different. The drinking age is 16, and most people will have like a beer with lunch, and it's like almost not even considered alcohol.
Interesting.
So I'd go like get a beer with my professor and then come back and input all my data samples into the program. But I generally only work about 4 days a week. And there was a lab meeting on Wednesdays. The work culture is very, very work-life balance there. So like there'd be like we didn't work on Fridays, and it was every single holiday was 100% taken off. So that was about a week. I would work like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then me and the friend that I lived with, especially as it got warmer, would go to like the public pool and like swim laps in like the tan in the afternoon.
Nice.
It was amazing.
The life.
And then we did a lot of weekend traveling, especially because we weren't doing school, so there wasn't any work that came home with me.
Yeah, there wasn't like catch up or homework to do, studying.
I wasn't allowed to take it home, and all my data was on like a work computer in the lab. So when I left the lab, I was done for the day, which was a really nice like mental break. It's very different from obviously being in school.
Yeah.
So there was some days when I would do half the experiment, and then the lab tech that was working with me would finish the experiment, and I'd like get on a plane Thursday night and like
Peace out.
go to Greece for 4 days, which was really, really sweet. In nice ways, it makes abroad a little bit more affordable if you can't afford to like pay tuition, pay housing in Guelph and housing abroad and food and travel. If you kind of do one of the exchanges that there's a stipend for, because like it's kind of the same idea as like a master's student. When you're doing research, they have to pay for your living expenses if they're not paying you by hour. So they paid for my trips.
Love it.
Which was amazing. Yeah.
I know you looked into it a little bit, like when you were going to start the program. Did you find that there was any way you could get course credit for what you did, and what did that kind of look like?
So there was actually a way to get course credit, which I didn't do because I didn't need it, and I didn't want. I forget what there was. Oh, I ended up actually taking one elective course online DE that summer to get ahead in credits, just so if I wanted to drop a course for like to fix my average for vet school applications in the fall, that was allowed. But there is like some UNIV courses and some animal science courses that are research based where you can run a research project.
Mhm.
And I talked to my nominating professor, and he was like, there is a way for you to get credit for that research. And it would count as like, I forget what the course code was.
4,700.
No. They're like, it's not that like experiments in animal biology. It's like courses that they have off to the side. Whereas if you work in a lab and then you like want to run a project in undergrad, they'll let you do a project, which is cool. And you like write your own course outline and determine what it was to get marked.
Mhm.
But the extra time commitment it would have been to like do the work for the course, as I wanted to just do the research. So I decided not to do it. But like there definitely is a way to get. The only thing is I think it's like maybe half a credit.
Okay.
It's not very much, especially when you're like basically working full time for half a credit. I was like, I don't know that that's something I really need.
Fair.
The other thing is if it's not a credit, is a pretty impactful part of something like a vet school application. My supervisor was one of my vet references, so it's something pretty cool, especially if you're. There was a couple days where we would go in person to sample the calves for another PhD student in the lab. So that's kind of animal experience, so that kind of stuff, and it's not a course, so it's not a conflict of interest.
Very nice. was there, like, you kind of talked about it a little bit already, but is there like anything else that you found a bit surprising about the academic culture or the research culture that was over there, versus, especially because you worked in like a research lab back here, kind of the differences between the two?
Um, Not even specific to academics or work culture. It's just people in Europe don't live to work; they work to live. So that was really refreshing and kind of made me have a better idea of how I want to work, especially if I do another degree, and kind of making sure that school doesn't overtake your life, which was really nice. Like, I was sick, and so I came into my lab. My supervisor was like, "Why are you here? You were so sick." Oh. She's like, "Go home." She's like, "Don't come tomorrow." Okay.
You're like, got it, Captain.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there was one weekend trip we wanted to do that we were having trouble booking, and like I was on my personal laptop in the lunchroom, and my prof like was like showing me the best ways to like get cheap flights in Germany and like where to fly out from. And she's like, "You have that Thursday off. You go a day early." Like, girl, you
Thanks.
tell me. Like, even there was two PhD students with us, and the head supervisor would joke. She'd be like, "You're a PhD student. You're supposed to work late," but like he would go home at like 4, and that was late. Work ended at 2 p.m.,
Wow.
which was very shocking to me, and I really enjoyed running a research project over there because it made it so there wasn't an expectation that I was trying to solve all the problems all the time, um, which definitely helped me have like a really fun experience being able to explore Europe while also doing something cool and like academic related.
Yeah. Nice. Oh, do you have any final comments on your research and what you did over there and professor relationship or anything like that?
Not necessarily like research related, but if someone watching is like a younger animal bio student, I really, really recommend going to office hours, sending emails to your professors. I worked as a research assistant in second year, just because I sent an email and I was like, "Hey, I think cows are cool. Can I help?" And that you kind of can make opportunities for yourself, which is what I've kind of found all throughout undergrad. And the more cool things you do like that, the easier it gets to do more things.
Mhm.
So like I had a better time abroad, and knowing how to work in a lab made it so like my host prof was like, "Oh, like you know how to use like a pipette." She's like, "You know how to use centrifuge properly." All those things. She was like, "Perfect." Um, that kind of stuff. So definitely don't be afraid. The animal biosciences profs are all really awesome, and there's tons of opportunities. Like especially at Guelph, we're one of the universities that we have animals on campus, and we have a agriculture college. So
Yeah.
definitely take advantage of that.
Nice. Love it. So our next little section is life abroad. We'll start with Arden again. So what was daily life like as a student in your host country?
Um, it was the first thing I think of when you ask that question is definitely the transportation. Um, Bikes are so big
In the Netherlands, it's
Yeah.
crazy. Yes.
There's such a culture there, and honestly, it's probably one of my favorite things about my exchange. Um, I got a bike, like I said, for super cheap, and it is the best bike I've ever ridden in my life. I went back to Canada and I was like, let's go for a bike ride. And I went with some of my friends, and I could not sit on my bike for more than like 5 minutes, and like my whole body would be in pain. Like those bikes over there are amazing. They're so comfortable, such good quality, and
You had to learn the rules of the road as a biker.
yeah, it's definitely a challenge. My dad grew up in the Netherlands till he was about 30, so he had a lot of advice because he biked to school every day.
You weren't blindsided by
No, I
the
wasn't.
atmosphere.
Yeah, there's like these little triangles on the road, and it's basically like the yield sign. So
Okay.
there's lots of roundabouts in the city I was at because it was a small city slash town. So there wasn't too much like stoplights and intersections. It was mostly roundabouts, and in the roundabouts there's like bike lanes. So coming from each side there's a bike lane, and then you have to yield to people in the roundabout just like a car. So it was really cool, and riding my bike to school is probably my favorite part of the day. um, on campus there was like so many areas to put your bike. There was bike garages under each building, like I swear, like full on car garages, and everyone rode their bike there. There was like so many bike lanes on campus. There was like no actual roads on campus. It was all just bike lanes, which was kind of amazing.
Nice.
And like I said, the city I lived in was very small, so each Wednesday and I believe it was Saturday, there was a market in the middle of the square, and that's like a very traditional Dutch market. And they had, a cheese cart and a fish cart, and they had like real leather that you could buy there. And I bought like a leather wallet,
So cool.
and they had a lady there who would always make traditional Dutch stroopwafels, which is like a little, it's like a little like waffle with like caramel on the inside. And
Yes.
she would like heat them up, and they were so good. And you could buy like little ceramic like tins for them and everything. So I'd always go there with my friends after class, and they had so many little shops in the main strip, and it was like a typical Dutch town. It was awesome. And I think a big part of like my daily routine was definitely grocery shopping, because I had to go like at least 2 times a week grocery shopping because I could not carry groceries. So I would bike to the grocery store, put as much stuff in my backpack as I could, and then I had like 2 bags, and I'd be riding like without my hands on my bike.
Oh
With
man.
my grocery bags on my shoulders, and there's only so much you can carry, but yeah, it was definitely fun. The grocery stores there are so different than here. They have so much like prepared fresh food.
Oh,
They
nice.
would have like these like containers with like all the veggies you need to make the soup and the recipe on the top. So yeah, be prepared in the grocery store. They had like a huge cheese aisle, and
The cheese. Oh
the
man.
cheese was amazing. And they had like chopped potatoes, sliced potatoes, fries, like prepared in the frozen vegetable aisle. Like it was amazing. And a lot of my weekends were traveling, to be honest, with my friends. I did a lot of traveling within the Netherlands. I went to Amsterdam a bunch of times. I went to like a bunch of the other cities surrounding Wageningen, which is like where I was living. And then I went to South. And so, yeah, that was most of like my daily life.
Cool. I love that. And how did you find campus life to differ from life here in Guelph?
Like I said, like the bikes was definitely the biggest thing. So many people bike on campus. No one I knew had a car. So you definitely have to be careful when you're walking there, because there's like a tiny little lane for pedestrians to walk, like a little gravel path beside the bike lane. And if you're not careful, people will hit you with their bike. Like they're ruthless.
Did you have any close calls?
I did not, but my friend told me the first week she was there, she like crashed into some girl with her bike, and
no.
she felt horrible. But yeah, it's definitely something to get used to. I always like look both ways when I cross any like. I know you should do that either way, but I feel like I'm so much more conscious of crossing like a bike lane now. So that was definitely a big part of it. I think that the buildings on campus were so much nicer. Not that I
Not to hate on Guelph.
love Guelph, but a lot of their buildings incorporated like greenery. Like they would have like a bunch of plants in like the study area, and some of the roofs had like gardens on them.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it
Well,
was,
the SSC has a garden on top of it too.
yeah, I do see the greenhouses
Yes,
sometimes.
yes.
But I thought that that was a really cool aspect. All of the buildings were named after like astrological signs. It was very modern, and it
cool.
felt really cool. And the campus was much smaller, but it was definitely nice. They had similar like greenhouses on the edge of the campus, like Guelph does, and they definitely had like less food areas, but for example, like the cafes they had on campus, the coffee was amazing. Like,
How did the food compare to wonderful Guelph?
I mean, on campus food, definitely not as good as Guelph food. But I think the coffee was better there. The coffee in the Netherlands is like 5 times stronger than
Yes.
the coffee in Canada, and my dad did warn me about that when I was there. And when I came back, I was so sad. I missed my strong coffee, and they make really good coffee over there. But.
Nice, nice. And so kind of jumping into the like agricultural background, what did you notice like in differences between how people think about animals or agriculture there versus here at Guelph?
Um, like Audrey said, I learned a lot about the like welfare and like research on animals there in one of my classes, and they're very strict about that and using animals in research and for teaching purposes. Um, I met a lot of people who actually had like so many aquariums and like a lot of like saltwater fish lovers in the Netherlands, which is I mean,
Interesting.
it kind of makes sense. They're like in the area close to the water.
A little.
I mean, sort of, but
It's like, isn't that inland?
it is mostly. But it's such a small country that you can get there. So
They find their way.
they do. So I did meet a lot of fish lovers. I mean, maybe that's because I took the aquaculture course, but even in my other classes, there was this one guy who was showing me all of his like aquarium and coral and all of that stuff in one of our classes, and I was like, yeah, that's very cool.
Sick.
Yeah, there's definitely way more animals in the Netherlands. Like that when you see like so many farms when you're driving like anywhere, and a lot of like dairy for sure in the Netherlands.
Yes.
A lot of dairy research there. I knew a lot of students that were in my classes that were doing like a lot of different research projects, and a lot of it included like dairy and stuff like that. But yeah, I found that they did care a lot about the animals in the same way that Guelph does, and especially in the program that I was in, like the animal science program, like I said before, the professors were just so caring and really careful about um, how they treated the animals, and in terms of like taking pictures when we went to like see cows or pigs or like the horses and stuff. So yeah, I think it was comparable in terms of how much they love the animals there, but definitely different culture surrounding the research, much more strict, and I think that's good, honestly. But like Audrey said, definitely a lot of hoops to jump through. So
Fair. Very nice. We'll jump over to Audrey now about life abroad. And so I kind of already asked you to describe a week in the life, but if you have anything to add, what was daily life like as a student in your host country?
Um, it was. It's a little hard to compare. Like I'm comparing it more in my head to like what my life is like, maybe like working during the summer. Because life as a student is like go to class, come home, study, work out, make dinner, study, sleep.
Fair.
Where it was like a lot of my friend and I there actually made friends with a lot of the people who went to the ballet school in the city.
The ballerinas.
Because they were all around the same age as us. So we did a lot of clubbing in Stuttgart. So like a day in the life is like get up, have like my coffee and my pastry, go to work, have lunch, have a beer, finish my work, come home, have a nice workout, make dinner with the friend I was living with, and then take the train into the city. Um, the U-Bahn was the train. We're actually the last. So the town I was living in was not actually in the main city of Stuttgart. It was a smaller town that was essentially just the campus, with a little bit of housing around it, and then it pretty quickly became like country. And we're like close to the airport as well, so we took the train in. It's like a 20-minute like above ground subway almost into the main city. So a lot of exploring in that way. So like I spent it's pretty comparable to like spending a lot of time in like downtown Toronto. It's not necessarily like spending time in the downtown of Guelph. There's a lot more interesting things going on, a lot of castles everywhere.
Pretty
Lots of
buildings.
pretty buildings. The hiking culture is also pretty big in like the southern part of Germany. So we did a lot of hikes.
Nice.
There was something called the Schnapps hike, which we never did, but it was like you did a hike, and then if you put a euro coin in, it would like spit out a like shot bottle of schnapps, which I'm so
Nice.
sad about. I think about that too often.
Fair. Guess you have to go back for it. And so another question is, how did campus life differ out there compared to Guelph?
So the campus was definitely a lot smaller than Guelph. Like not the size of campus per se, because it was such a heavily research school. There was very few undergrads there. So it was a little isolating at times because there wasn't very many young people around. Like obviously there was undergrads, but a lot of research. Like we had lots of cattle on campus and a huge like protected forest, like the arboretum almost, where they did a lot of botanical research, which is pretty cool. So definitely a different vibe than Guelph. And people tend to commute. So
Okay.
it was like it
Not
got
super close.
very dead at night.
Fair.
There was like an on-campus rave in a building owned by the campus like body, like the student body, which was a lot of fun, and it was like really built out, very popular, which was kind of cool. But other than that, it was very quiet in the town we were in at night.
Interesting. And then last question, did you notice any differences in how people think about animals / agriculture out there?
I talked about it a lot, like especially on the research side. Yeah, it's a lot tighter. In some ways, the welfare of our agriculture animals out there is a lot better than here. In some ways, it's not. We tend to wean closer to 12 weeks here. The norm out there is 7, which is something I was pretty shocked about, like running that research project. But there is like a lot less wildlife because in a country like Germany is a lot smaller than Canada, but it's still quite a large population. So like even if we took the train up to like the north end of Germany, you're not going to see like wild animals when you're like driving through the forest because it's not, there's houses everywhere.
Fair.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very nice. Awesome. We're on to our final section of interview questions. And so we're going to talk about some of the challenges and growth that you guys experienced while abroad. So Arden, start us off. What was your biggest challenge you faced during your exchange? And that can be something academically or personally.
I think my biggest challenge was probably the independence aspect. I should have talked about this earlier, but there's a lot that I needed to do, not just before my exchange, but actually once I got into the country, there was so much to do that I didn't even realize. In order to get a bank card, I needed to become a citizen of the city that I was living in, similar to like Germany. So you actually had to go to like the city hall and register yourself as a citizen.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then you could get a bank card, and that was a whole process. It had to be sent to me. And then I also had to get a public transit card, and there was a bunch of stuff within that I had to figure out. And I think that since no one was there to help me, it was a lot of navigation on my own. So I think that was probably the biggest challenge I faced, just sort of being independent and figuring out those big adult problems on your own without any advice. Like I had a great resource. Like my dad knew a lot, and he tried to help the best he could, but he was so far away. There's only so much.
Yeah, very different time zone as well.
Yeah.
Fair.
And then I think just having the independence in terms of like missing everyone from Canada, that was a big aspect of it for me because I'm definitely a home person and I really like being at home and in my comfort zone and stuff like that. So if you're that type of person, don't stray away from doing an exchange. You learn a lot about yourself. So I think that was probably one of the biggest challenges in the early parts of my exchange. But definitely overcame it and have a positive experience from that.
Awesome. Is there anything specific that you found that you learned about yourself, like other than like homebodiness?
I think I think a big thing for me was I had never really like solo traveled a lot before my exchange. I had done it twice, but my dad flew over with me, so he was really helpful, and I had so much family um, helping me and stuff for the first month of my exchange, having to do like solo trips, going to like France or Prague or Germany, and having to do that alone. It was definitely scary at first, and I think that that helped me to sort of break that barrier. And I think that in general, I learned that I can navigate a difficult situation.
Build a bit of resilience.
Yeah, exactly. If I really need to. And I know like a lot of people who knew me really well were sort of like, oh, well, are you sure you want to do this? Like, you really like being at home and you like being surrounded by like people you know, and you really value that. And it sort of made me doubt myself. But I think that going through that experience taught me that I can do that. So.
You can do hard things.
Exactly.
I love that. We'll jump into a bit of advice for future students. So, what would you say to an animal bio student that's considering doing an exchange program?
I think the biggest thing would probably be that you can. And I was told by everyone I asked, like in terms of CIP and
Academic counselor.
Academic counselors, thank you.
Got you.
That I could do it and that I would graduate on time. And but it is daunting to go on an exchange as an animal biology student, because each semester, of course, we know there's the required courses that you need to do, and really only until your fourth year is when you have sort of free reign, and there isn't much opportunity for exchange programs during the year because you sort of have to do those required courses at some point. And I think that talking to your academic counselor beforehand about what your future plan might be and where your courses are going to line up would be smart, but it is definitely doable. Like, if you are flexible to taking an extra semester, which is what I'm doing, I think that it's such a experience that is worth it and invaluable, and no one else can really, nothing else I've experienced so far in universities can match what I've learned on my exchange. So I think that pushing my graduation back a little bit is definitely worth it, to have that experience. And then I think that it's also really important to get that experience, like sort of meeting other people and networking within the animal biology field, but within a different country, and learning about new career opportunities. If you're applying to vet school, it's definitely good to like put that down as like your experience and what you've learned from your exchange. They don't only value academics and experience, they also value if you're a well-rounded person. And I think that having those experiences, putting yourself out there, it definitely boosts your application. Also for grad school. So I think that it can really be an important experience to have, to open yourself up to new doors and challenge yourself.
Awesome. I love that. And then for you, did you have any tips for students trying to balance academics while also trying to explore the country that they're living in?
Yeah, for sure. That was definitely tough because I wanted to still get good grades, but I wanted to explore the country, and I knew that this was like my one opportunity when it was still pretty cheap. So, because traveling, like I said, within Europe is pretty reasonable compared to traveling from Canada to Europe. So I think that grinding during the week is honestly the biggest tip.
Head in the books Monday to Friday.
Yeah, like my and I would be like in our lab, in our insect lab, and we'd have a flight booked like at like 9 p.m. the same night, and we'd just be in the lab like getting this assignment done. But I think that, yeah, definitely like meeting with other international students who also want to travel and do stuff on the weekend is a motivator to be like, okay, let's all sit down in the library and let's just like focus like on from Monday to Thursday, and when you want to leave and skip class on Friday, I think that's fine for one or two times. But yeah, I think one big thing I found out later was that like one of my classes I think was pass or fail, so I didn't even realize that until the end. But,
You were grinding, and it was like, oh, didn't need to.
Yeah, but I'm still like, I still want to get good grades. So
Fair.
I think definitely, yeah, just grinding during the week, and then also, I made sure to bring my laptop with me. I know that's not always a smart decision when you're traveling, but yeah, definitely if you ever need to do any classwork during your travels, it's possible. I've done it. I've been in hostels on the bed working while my friend was
Roughing it out there.
Yeah, for sure. But it's definitely worth it. Like, I went to Prague with some of my friends. I went to Ireland, Scotland, Paris. I went twice. It was so worth it.
Amazing.
I went to Cologne. Where else did I go? I traveled during the weekends is also a great tip. Like, if you don't have time to go to another country, like you can do a day trip, especially in Europe. Like, I found the public transit in the Netherlands was so easy. There's like trains and metros and buses, and everything's readily available. So
Yeah, I think it's hard to wrap around like growing up in Canada that you can get to very big places quite quickly because everything in Canada is just so spread apart.
yeah, like the Netherlands is such a small country. Like, you can get like anywhere interesting like in 30 minutes of a train ride. Like, you're in a completely different city. And I went to Zandvoort, which is like it's on the beach, and it's where the F1 races are held, and you can do so much cool stuff within the country that you're in because there's just so many new things to do there. So yeah, if you don't have the time to go out of the country, it's definitely worth it to like get the experience and travel within the country that you're in. It's cheaper and it's easier to do and manage school.
Nice. And you kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but I just wanted to go back. So with applying to Ontario Veterinary College, how does your credits that you received abroad tie into that?
Honestly, I'm not sure how it's gonna look on how it's gonna transfer over, but I'm pretty sure from what I understand, this is not for sure. From what I understand when I talked to my academic counselor,
Got it.
I did. She said that she believes that they would skip that semester. So I'm not sure if you can find if you really want to make those grades count towards your vet school applications, if there is a way, but I'm pretty sure that they won't count towards your vet school applications. But yeah, just again, I wanted to really emphasize that the personal growth and the experience of like building those skills for your resume, like networking and communication and collaboration, is definitely worth it for your vet school applications.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that the credits directly transfer over. But
that's fair.
I believe if you do take the like supplement course, like if you take one of the required courses abroad, I think you can apply to make it count.
Okay.
Vet school, but definitely worth looking into for that.
Yeah, and OVC also this past application cycle, so the people that are applying for fall of 2026 entry, they seem to be a bit more lenient with certain courses. So the hope is that if someone was in that position and took biochemistry abroad, there's a fair argument that you can make there that they would hopefully look at it. Knock on wood.
Yeah,
but
hopefully.
Yeah. No, I love that. Awesome. Well, we can jump over to Audrey now for challenges, growth, and advice. So what was your biggest challenge that you faced during your exchange?
A lot of it was feeling very isolated. As Arden talked about, and I noticed that people in Germany, they're like very German. So like you talk across the street and smile at someone, and then just like they do the German stare. If you're doing something strange in public, they're just gonna be like judging you. Like when I came home, we were getting dinner or something, and my mom was like, "Why are you staring at her?" And I was like, "I'm not doing anything." So it was really hard to kind of feel comfortable in such a new place when it seemed so like foreign. And especially when there wasn't a lot of people our age at the university we were at, and we weren't in like residence. It was really nice that I had my friend there with me. I think I would have maybe not been able to do it without him. But yeah, that was a huge challenge for me. That summer, a lot of things happened at home that I missed. My brother graduated high school. I had a cousin born. So it was definitely like give and take. 100% worth it looking back, but it was definitely hard. Like
to miss some of those really important milestones.
I call my mom, but she's asleep. And the only hours of the day that we can talk, I'm doing something. So that
Fair.
was definitely a big challenge.
Nice. And what would you say is something important that you've learned about yourself while studying abroad?
I learned a lot about myself. I learned how to just enjoy where I am and what I'm doing. I find now in the past year or so, I have a much more positive outlook on what I'm doing, and I'm very good at staying present. So before going abroad, I was and still am a pretty anxious person, I wasn't very resilient. And I would very quickly spiral into negative things. And I found that after I came back, I was much more level-headed, and as a person, I was just much more resilient, and I was way more comfortable talking to people I didn't know and having fun in public. And I was just like, okay, let's go to a new city, and we're gonna do stuff in a place I've never been to. Exactly. Yeah, and so I'm now back applying that to like school here. And even like what I did for work this summer, I love talking to people is something that I would never have said about myself as a teenager.
Yeah.
And I love hanging out with people. I think it's great. I like doing new things, and it's a lot of stuff like that the people that knew me before exchange that came back, like even the farm that I worked at, they were like, "You're very much more on it and more relaxed, and nothing ever seems to like really upset you," which was kind of interesting. Like there'd be things happen abroad where like a good example was we went away one weekend, and we took the last flight that got to the last across the country bus that got to the last public bus to check into the hostel 1 minute before the reception closed. And so,
Oh Lord.
Like, at the beginning of my exchange, I wouldn't have been able to handle that. And I was like, woo, this is so fun.
So exhilarating.
So the personal growth is definitely crazy. I didn't really think that would happen, but having to be a full, real adult doing real things by myself in a place where there's no safety net.
No mom or dad to help you.
Exactly. Like, it was really fun, because I was there with my best friend from home. So we did a lot of stuff like that we had wanted to do at home together, and we got to go see these places now abroad. But yeah, no, the personal growth goes crazy.
Awesome. And we'll jump over to more of the advice for other students. So what would you say to an animal bio student potentially considering an exchange program?
I would say that if it's something you're thinking about, then it's probably something that you're going to want to do. And if you want to do it, because you can make it work. And the results of going on exchange is like the pressure it puts on you. It does really make you become a different person, which sounds really cliche, but it's very true. And it does give you a lot of transferable skills. Like public speaking is something I couldn't do before, but I presented multiple times abroad and like met lots of new people, and now it's one of my favorite things. Like, I love getting to meet new people and hear their stories. Like, I'm the friend that sits in the front of the Uber to talk to the Uber driver. So if it's something you're like, maybe I would go on exchange, and it's something that actually you would want to do it. Or even if you're not quite sure and you're like, oh, this thing might hold me back, I would say just
Do some research.
You can find a way to make it work.
Yeah.
It's really such an excellent thing to do.
I love that. And I think like something that's important for like students to always kind of consider is like you never know how much you can take on until you just do it.
Exactly.
So you might be like daunted or think that all of the deadlines and paperwork and finding different supervisors to help like push for you to go abroad like would be intimidating.
Yeah.
But it's like in the end you will probably have the time that you can set aside to put all of those things together, and it's worth it in the end.
Yeah, like something that I was a little bit nervous about going in. Like, I was far enough in my degree that I knew that I didn't really have enough free electives to do like a typical exchange semester, and I was like, I still want to go abroad. So I was like, oh, but now I have to find professors who will stand up for me, which seems terrifying, but professors like students that are keen.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're kind and professional and seem driven, professors will do a lot more for you than you think. So I wouldn't let that be something holding you back, especially if you're limited by cost or by time or by the semester that you're in, and you still want to have the opportunity to go to Europe as a 20-something-year-old before you graduate. Going abroad to do research in the summer is a really, really great opportunity.
Awesome. And so my last question for you for advice is if you could go back, what's one thing you think you'd do differently?
A big thing that me and my friend talked about a lot was definitely living with other students. We kind of thought that it would be nice to be right in the center of campus, like in the research housing, but housing wasn't that great, and we didn't really have a real kitchen, so it made cooking kind of a challenge.
Fair.
So that's definitely a big thing. And then the other thing I think would like pushing myself even further out of my comfort zone. Like, I pushed myself pretty far, but like I could have done more.
Nice.
Like, we did spend a lot of time in our home city, which I loved. Met so many fantastic people. And like, we actually got to see a ballet performed by the Stuttgart Ballet for free because one of the students had gotten us tickets, which was really, really cool. So we like
just a little jealous.
And we like bought flowers and like met some of the parents of the guys and girls that we were friends with, which was awesome. And if you go to Germany during the summer here, you actually make it in time for Frühlingsfest, which is like spring Oktoberfest.
Cool.
You can drink in public in Germany.
It might be slightly encouraged. I love that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that concludes our little interview section, and we'll jump into the next. So, I've got some fun quick-fire Q&As for you guys. So please tell me, what was your favorite food that you tried abroad?
It's not from the Netherlands, but I did.
Wow, rude.
A lot of the foods that are from the Netherlands I've had like all of my life, so it wasn't really like surprising to me. But I went to Paris twice, and I loved the steak and frites.
Oh,
This very specific restaurant that, if you search up steak and frites in Paris, you'll know it's called Le Relais de l'Anticote or something like that. I can't pronounce it properly.
okay, French.
There's like a line out the door, and it's so good. That's all they serve there.
That's all they serve.
Yes, and it is delicious. I had it both times I went there.
As you should.
Yes, nothing matches it.
Nice.
Kind of the same. Like, both my parents are German, so I grew up eating a lot of German food, so it wasn't like anything really strange. But Kartoffelsalat is potato salad, and I love that before I went to Germany, and so we literally kept like 1 liter like plastic containers in our fridge, and I would just like get up and like this potato salad. It's like thinly sliced potatoes with like covered in like a vinegar dressing, and so the potatoes get a little mushy. It's very good.
Interesting. I love that. And so my next little quick question is, what is one must visit place or event that you attended that you would recommend for future exchange students to go to?
Place, I think for sure, Prague is so underrated. I will rave about Prague. It is amazing. It's so cheap. So for students, it is great. There's so many things to do. Like my friends and I went for 4 days, and we literally were busy all the time. We hiked up a mountain. Like I almost got hit by a tram. And
Oh, love.
yeah, it was awesome. Like the nightlife is great there too. They have like lots of clubs if you're into that, and so many different types of like bars, and people are really nice there. There's like history you can go and see, and also, a lot of different cool restaurants. We went to like a Peruvian restaurant there, which was random, but it was so good. And the flights are really cheap, like I've mentioned, and everything is cheap there, so it is definitely worth it. But I think it's so underrated. And then quickly, an event. Sorry, I have to mention this, but if you go to Amsterdam, you have to go to King's Day. It's in May, and it is the best. It's like basically like Chancellor's, but over the whole city. Like everyone's walking around, everyone's drinking, everyone's listening to music, and it's really fun, and everyone's wearing orange. So if you're in Amsterdam in May, you have to go to King's Day.
Nice.
My favorite place that I visited my whole trip was Berlin. It's a fantastic city. It's like young, and it has a lot of interesting stuff going on. The food is fantastic, and there's so much history there. Like going to see the Berlin Wall was really awesome, and then they also have a fantastic nightlife. There's some like really cool clubs there that have quite a reputation, like Bergheim, which we didn't go to because if you don't speak German, they ain't letting you in.
Interesting.
But we did go to a couple, so it was a really, really fantastic time. So definitely go to Berlin and do some things that are out of your comfort zone in Berlin. But yeah.
Love it. Awesome. And so my final little quick fire question is, if you could bring one thing from the Netherlands or Germany back to Canada, what would it be? Or do you have a favorite souvenir that you collected?
I already said this, but I would bring my bike home. Like that was the best bike I've ever ridden. Like I'm never gonna stop talking about it. When I dropped it back off at the place where I bought it from, I was literally crying. Like it was so good. I've ridden on the back of that bike like so many times. When my boyfriend came and visited, he would like always ride the bike, and I'd be sitting on the back, and I just have such good memories of that bike. So cheap bike, you will be missed.
Forever.
I have like a double whammy for this question. The first one, pretzels. You don't know how dependent you become on soft pretzels until there's no more access. I came home and I was like, I don't know what to do. And I had like a pretzel in Toronto, and I was like,
Not the same.
But something cool that my friend and I did actually abroad is we collected postcards in every city that we went to. And if there was like a fun day that we did something, or like an interesting event, so I have a huge collection of postcards with like stories written on the back,
Cute.
which is really cute, and like I love looking at them. So I definitely like recommend doing something like that, especially because when you go exchange, you're probably traveling a lot. So yeah, that was something really special.
I love that. No, postcards are awesome. I have a bunch of like postcards from when I traveled Europe a little bit, and I collected them all because it's like a really cheap way to remember all the places you went, and you can write on them. But I love that. Awesome. Well, that concludes our interview. Thank you guys for coming. So some of our key takeaways from this podcast, were that we have like opportunities in the animal bio program to have courses count towards your degree to help ensure that you'll graduate on time still, which is awesome because a lot of people will mislead you down the road saying that it is impossible. It is not. Look at Arden. And then if you're not interested in maybe doing the academic side for multitude of reasons, there also is the opportunity to go abroad and do research opportunities. So most people end up considering doing research anyways here at Guelph over the summer. So hell, why not do it somewhere fun like Germany? But yeah, so ABSA heavily encourages you guys to take a look at the CIP, the Center for International Programs website, and attend some of their talks, and they can give you a lot more information. But that concludes our podcast. So thank you guys for listening, and remember that ABSA has a bunch of upcoming events this semester. We have 2 more in the books at this time, and as well as merchandise sales will be going up super soon. So thanks for tuning in to ABSA on Air. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at absa.uofg, and email us at absa.uoguelph@gmail.com with episode suggestions or any questions you may have. And we can also help forward any questions to Arden or Audrey if you have them. Thanks again, and see you guys next time.